I come again with the team that I'd like to share a little bit our experience in the past years and what's been the recent developments on collaborative environment, and also gather some of your feedback on this. There's now so many different ways of actually spreading the work around several different offices, and so many new reasons why to do it, that it's difficult to know exactly what is the best way, and depending on the project context, there might be more than one way to do it. And let's address the why. Why do you need to spread the work amongst, or access the work from somewhere else? So the simplest is that maybe just want to access this from your home during the weekend, or your kid gets sick and you need to work from home that day, or regular thing that you're not really considering as a big constraint in a project. So that is kind of the simplest one. But maybe you have more than one branch office, it's all inside the same company, and you decided you need to spread work amongst them, and it's not different projects. You want people to work in the same project, so you need this to happen in a more or less seamless way. Maybe it's one of those things that you want to use your licenses more efficiently, right? So you can have somebody doing this at a different shift, at a different location, and use the license. So you're just thinking about not spreading the work, but just access to the licenses. You might just need a boost of manpower in a project. Like your team is okay, but you just need more guys, more hands on deck. Or you might even have to, just subcontract part of the work, so you cannot just do it alone, and you need to subcontract this. Or if it can be like a joint venture, is more than a subcontractor, is like two companies having to group together to deliver something. So, and you can find more reasons, and where reason would be also, well, why not, right? So, what I like to drag your attention to this, and I'm quite sure all of you have already experienced this in one way or the other, is how will this impact like the project management in a classical way that we see project manager, the guy that makes sure that we have the resources and we are delivering on time and on quality. But then the IT management, because we're talking about databases, we're talking about software accesses, networks, licenses, so there's some management of the infrastructure. Then the manpower, like how much of this means managing dispersed manpower, pulverized workforce. Then licenses, what happens when you do this and that, who has the licenses, who need to buy for this, because you get a different quote from someone else if you are providing the license or if they are providing the license, right? Of course, data protection, depending on the type of projects, this can be from sensitive to very sensitive. So, of course, what is the cost of this? And you see the cost literally, like how much money is involved. Do I have to pay something new, Lambertus, right? For this is a free license. But also the required skills, like the cost of actually implementing this. And time to implementation is something that I need to think about 2 weeks in advance, or can I decide this from Monday to Tuesday? And the other thing is, how much will this depend from the quality of the communications between the two or multiple sites? Is this a continuous flow of information? Is this more batches of info, and then you get the updates? So I will focus on 4 things. So if you are working on a ShipConstructor project, you kind of can spread these 4 things among different computers inside of your, or different servers already inside of your organization, right? You can have one server for the database, one server for the files, one server for the licenses, and of course one access point for the users. This can all be different machines. So this already gives us an idea of the 4 things that we can kind of spread, not only among several workstations or servers, but actually among several sites. And the combinations will be kind of combinations of what is remote and what is not remote of all these things. So the extreme case is everything in the same site and in the same machine, like my laptop there. Like I have my server, my license, everything is there. The other extreme would be everything web-based, like everything in the cloud. I have a remote server in the cloud. I put my SQL there, my database, my files. So, yeah. So somewhere in the middle, you'll get your thing. So I'll go with the classics, right? Workshare project. So workshare project means that you have, Office A, Site A. I have my database, I have my files, everything is there, was working there, and now I need to, for some reason, access this from another site. So you can decide to do this, like you just create a split. There's a parent-child relationship here, so I think most of you have already used this tool. You will do a split, you'll send that to the other site. They become independent, apparently, right? So I'm working on my site as if in site B, as if this is the database, the files. And whenever it's relevant for the project management, I will send a merge file to the to the owner of the project. And if I'm supposed to continue in this project, I will get a refresh file. So, and this you can do with multiple sites. So I'll just put it here so we have an idea of what you're talking about. So project management, it means that you're actually having two project managers, one on site A, one on site B. Like this is technically two projects. IT management, yes, you'll need somebody that knows at least to do the basics on splitting databases and passing this. So there's some IT management on all the sites. Manpower, okay, it's two different sites, so every site has to fix their own manpower, do whatever. License management, I'm not addressing it here, but since basically every site needs to have their own licenses. And data protection, well, the data needs to be protected at both ends, right? Costs, this comes with a network cost for this. And it takes a little bit to implement the first time, but after that, it's kind of workflow. It is not very communication intense, but you will be talking about big files that need to be sent from one location to the other. And since you want to do this when not everybody is in the project, so the IT guy will end up doing a lot of weekends, right, to do this. Because you want to do this when nobody's there, so he receives a big file, he needs to put it up. Okay. So this is one that's available right now. So the classic also is, you just VPN. That's what you do when you just want to work from your home. You can just VPN your office. Everything stays in the office, and the data protection that you get here will be, the data protection that you get in the office and whatever encryption you get on your VPN. So this is pretty simple to use, but it will put some effort in knowing how many people are actually accessing the project remotely. So the IT guy needs to know how many people can actually do this and how the data is secure. Also, this will rely a little bit on the quality of the connection, because just pushing a button and you're actually writing directly to your server. The other one is remote desktop. It's a very well-known technology. It comes as a default in Windows. There's plenty of other apps that can provide you a little bit more control on how to do it if you just don't want just the classic Windows app. This is cooler when you get to data protection. That is, the data never leaves the site, and it means that you will have to have a second machine. I think that might be the the constraint here, that is, I'm using my machine, whatever machine that is, but I need a second machine that I run from outside. So when you do this, it's normal that you end up with a stack of computers that are just there waiting for somebody to access remotely from outside. The good thing is that you can very easily, well, depending on your network of suppliers, you can very easily increase the manpower of a project without no real, let's say, need for interaction with the other side. Like, you can have 5 different guys totally pulverized working on the project remotely. They just go in one day, and the next day, if they are not needed, they just go out. So it's probably like the fastest way to get somebody help you remotely from your project, and you still keep control of all your data, right? This also requires, live communication, but since you are not exactly saving or moving data around, you're just moving the pointer on the screen. From our experience, works quite well. When you go to output, since you need to drag and drop things, there might be a lag there, but really depending on the modeling part, normally behaves quite well. Of course, really dependent on your internet connection. So, sorry, kind of talk about it. So I would say in terms of cost, the only cost is having this stack of computers that sometimes you don't need them. But so this is what came up as a compromise solution in the past 2 years. In this case, what we are saying is saying, look, I still want to VPN because you want to keep your database, and the other site that is providing the manpower might not have all the skills to manage, splitting and merging databases. So the database is centralized. So I still VPN to that. The other thing is probably you are asking users, one user here, another user there, so they don't have a running license. So you need to give the guys a license. So the VPN will solve this, like, here's the license, is the database. Now, sometimes the connection is pretty, shitty. And so I cannot just have the guy fully VPNing, otherwise, he clicks, then he waits, then he clicks, then he waits, and yeah. So what happens is that you do a compromise and say, look, I can share with you the files, and I will put the files in a network that you will then synchronize to your machine. So technically, when you hit save on your machine, you are saving a local file, which is faster. You are sending two actions, right? Save the file and save in the database. So saving the database, yes, you'd require the network. But saving the file, you've done it in your machine. And only after that, you can continue working on ShipConstructor. After that, in the background, is now uploading the file to the cloud, and then from the cloud, downloading the file to the... So a normal thing to do this is Dropbox. For instance, is kind of the cheapest. You can get Dropbox installed in 10 minutes, up and running, and you have like 2 terabytes now for 90 euros. But there's plenty of others, like there are limitations with Dropbox in terms of security, encryption of the connections. So we have already worked with other tools like Ignite. So this allows multi-site. Of course, then this tool is more expensive than Dropbox. But technically, this allows to cut you in half the communication time. Because, and especially if you're talking about output drawings, for instance, you have just load all the unit, now you want to do the cuts in marine drafting. Output drawings can be massive. But there's nothing there except geometry, right? I'm not really saving anything in the database. The database only saves that query. So it's a simple drawing to save when you save it on your machine. If you try to save it remotely, you might be trying to send 300 megabytes through the line, and you keep waiting for this. So these kind of solutions are coming now as an hybrid because they are very low tech to implement. They are very dependent on the main office that is subcontracting this, like all the knowledge on how to do it, it stays in the main office, and they are quite cost effective, and they are easy to implement. So Basically, I would say that in terms of project management, yes, you have to get the project managed in-house. That is, you have scattered manpower, and they are, loose guns on the project, so you need to manage those remotely. But the IT management is all yours. You don't need remote ITs on this. Then, yes, you need to manage the manpower. License, you can provide directly. The data protection is there in terms of database for sure. It might not be there in terms of files, depends on the application to use. So for instance, Dropbox is not an encrypted transmission, so you might want to look at that. The cost is fairly simple. You don't really need new tools on your side to implement this. The other guys only need an access to whatever is the sharing files. Time to implementation is almost no time. Within a day, you can have this pretty much worked out. And it needs live connection, but it kind of cuts in half, and sometimes more than that, the required bandwidth for this to work. So, between all of those options, I just wanted to point your attention to this. That is, think that you have these four things: database, files, license, users, and you can just think about the best way to jiggle this. Well, thank you.